U.S. city of Baltimore, a major bridge has collapsed into the water.
Massive cargo ship smashing into the bridge around 1:30 in the morning here. The bridge collapsing right into the harbor water.
See the cargo ship that eventually hit the bridge come into view.
The tragic collapse of the Baltimore Bridge left a nation in mourning. Following the disaster, a congressional hearing was convened to understand the cause of the collapse and prevent similar tragedies. The hearing promises a bombshell revelation, a piece of information that could significantly change our understanding of the event. Today, we will explain that in detail. So make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Members of Congress grilled officials leading the federal response about the ship's power outage, the security of other bridges, and how to pay for a new bridge just one day after a preliminary report provided fresh details about what transpired in the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge following a vessel strike. How could the electricity issues aboard the ship have been prevented? How equipped was this bridge for large ships? And how equipped are the others around the nation? The federal government needs to figure out a way to pay for a new bridge. A massive cargo ship set out from the port of Baltimore early on March 26th in the direction of Sri Lanka, but it didn't get very far. 6 construction workers were killed when the 984-foot Dali, which had lost power twice within a half-mile of the Key Bridge, collapsed and drifted into one of the bridge's support piers at 1:30 a.m. Response officials in Baltimore anticipate refloating and removing the Dali from the center of the channel early next week, according to a Coast Guard official who made the announcement. By the end of May, if not before, the Army Corps of Engineers intends to restore the federal canal. Other work is also in progress in the interim. The National Transportation Safety Board is still looking into what caused the vessel to strike, and it released its preliminary report. There is a criminal investigation by the FBI. Officials involved in transportation are preparing for a new bridge. The hearing was held by the U.S. House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure in order to discuss the federal reaction. Following are key insights. Dali's power outages were noticeable. The NTSB's preliminary investigation stated that the Dali had 2 blackouts, or total power outages, around 10 hours before it departed port, as the crew performed engine maintenance. As a result of the power outages while in port, which were first brought on by a crew member's error-related mechanical issue, the crew changed the ship's electrical transformer and circuit breakers, according to the report. As the ship got closer to the bridge, those breakers tripped twice, leaving it mostly propelled and without rudders as it crashed into the support pier. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy made a distinction between Dali's 4 power failures during her testimony. Homendy informed MPs, preliminary data suggests that the blackouts that occurred on March 25th were mechanically distinct from those that occurred on March 26th. 2 had to do with standard port maintenance. During the accident journey, 2 circuit breakers unexpectedly tripped. The investigation that Homendy described as being of unprecedented scope for her agency, which looks into transportation mishaps with the intention of preventing similar fatalities rather than holding anybody accountable, revolves upon determining what caused the breakers to trip as the Dali approached the bridge. Homendy stated in his testimony that switching breakers is not unusual, but may have affected operations the very next day on the accident voyage. Therefore, the breaker's configuration is still being investigated. Coast Guard to evaluate important ports. The collapse of the Key Bridge raised many concerns over the safety of maritime operations near U.S. ports and infrastructure. Vice Admiral Peter Gauthier of the Coast Guard stated that the inquiries demand prompt action and that authorities cannot wait for the results of federal investigations into the Baltimore tragedy before seeking an answer. While we await the findings of these investigations, it is clear from a broader perspective that ships have become larger and more complex over time, increasing the demands on our marine transportation infrastructure. which may not have kept up with the rising risk these vessels pose. Gauthier stated as much in her testimony. It's time we took a broader view of these risks. In order to assess the effectiveness of the Coast Guard's risk management resources and how they are being used in major ports, Gauthier informed parliamentarians that he was assembling a nationwide board of inquiry. Gauthier added that the investigation would establish a holistic national-level approach to develop risk profiles, identify ways to address vulnerabilities, and propose actions to reduce the risk of major incidents, characterizing it as a crucial step in ensuring the safe and secure flow of commerce on our waterways. Homendi expressed her encouragement at the Coast Guard's proposal for a national board of inquiry for ports. Concerns about financing the reconstruction of bridge. Rebuilding the bridge would be fully funded by federal funds, according to President Joe Biden's vow. However, committee members questioned how Congress could expect to receive some money back if it is footing the tab for a new bridge, which is expected to cost close to $2 billion. The Federal Highway Administration's administrator, Shaylene Bhatt, informed parliamentarians that any insurance proceeds collected following an emergency relief event are refunded into the Emergency Relief Fund in accordance with current regulations. The majority of the expenditures associated with repairing damaged roads and bridges as a result of natural catastrophes and external catastrophic failures are covered by this program. According to Bhatt, the emergency assistance request for the Key Bridge collapse, which is estimated to be worth between $1.70 and $1.9 billion, is the second largest that the Federal Highway Administration has ever received. He stated that it comes in second to a request for $2.2 billion made in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. In answer to queries from MPs, Bhatt also admitted that the Key Bridge had been reclassified as an interstate highway system after it collapsed, rather than a state institution. Due to this redesignation, it will no longer be eligible for the full 80% of expenditures to be reimbursed by the government program, but rather for 90% or more. According to Bhatt, the Federal Highway Administration has informed Maryland officials that they believe emergency relief funding would be available, which lessens some uncertainty. We will recover all insurance payments, and they will go back into the emergency relief funds. So I can pretty much guarantee with certainty that this will not be 100% federally funded eventually, Bhatt remarked. However, as the ranking member pointed out, we don't want to wait for it through all of the legal disputes, NTSB investigations, and insurance problems. Pier protection is still up for debate, both for Key Bridge and other reasons. 2 dolphins on each side of the Key Bridge, or island-like structures in the sea, were placed there to guard the bridge's piers, according to the NTSB's preliminary assessment. However, despite the presence of those precautions, the drifting dolly still managed to hit one of the steel, concrete, and timber bridge piers. The dolphins were quite small, according to Homendi, who stated, and the surrounding protection was still rather close to the pier. So, the Baltimore Bridge collapse exposed vulnerabilities in our infrastructure and maritime operations. The Congressional hearing shed light on several crucial aspects. An investigation into the electrical issues aboard the dolly revealed concerns about pre-accident malfunctions. The Coast Guard, prompted by the incident, proposed a nationwide evaluation of port safety measures to address the increasing risks posed by larger ships. Financing the new bridge emerged as a significant hurdle. While the federal government pledged to cover the costs, recouping some expenses through insurance remains uncertain. The multi-billion-dollar project highlights the need for a sustainable funding solution. The Baltimore Bridge tragedy serves as a wake-up call. The ongoing investigations and the Coast Guard's initiative aim to prevent similar disasters. However, ensuring a smooth reconstruction process through proper funding remains a challenge that needs immediate attention. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more updates. We will catch you in the next one.